Welcome back, everyone, to the House of Hustle podcast here on Sports Radio 810. We are presented, as always, by our friends at Charlie Hustle. Welcome back to all of our listeners. Wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday and a Happy New Year as we start a podcast today on really trying to get a state of college basketball as we head into league play. A lot of the local schools closing up non-conference play as we head into the new year. So a lot to cover here on the House of Hustle podcast. We do want to thank our friends at Charlie Hustle. Head over to charliehustle.com to find your new vintage swag. They've had they have a holiday hangover sale going on right now in store and online. So be sure to stock up on all your local items, local teams. They have $24 t-shirts, $24 off fleeces as well. That's online and in store. So thank you to our friends over at charliehustle.com. Saw a lot of Charlie Hustle gear actually through the bowl games. Kansas State, congrats to those football programs on bowl wins. Saw a lot of Charlie Hustle gear in the crowd, TV painting the crowd and seeing a lot of Charlie Hustle gear, a lot of the coats, the pullovers. So be sure to stock up on all your team essential t-shirts, sweatshirts, and all your vintage fresh gear made fresh at charliehustle.com. A lot to cover on this podcast. It's been a little while. No Stephen St. John on this podcast. He's headed down to Dallas. We are recording on Friday, so Mizzou football in action tonight in the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State. Looking forward to watching that tonight, but Stephen and his family are down in Dallas, enjoying a little bit of a holiday break. So no Stephen St. John on the pod today. It'll be pretty much a breakdown of the state of college basketball, and then we'll get into some of the local schools, and maybe we hit on a little bit of the bowl as well to close for Mizzou. So wanted to start just the state of college basketball right now. It's an interesting time just with non-conference wrapping up, a lot of the local schools in action, but also some surprises as we head into league play. I do want to touch on the contenders, I would say, right now in college basketball, some disappointments around college basketball, and then some teams that are dangerous as we head into 2024. It's crazy to think we're through the non-conference portion of the slate. But let's take a look right now at where things stand in men's basketball in terms of the rank. I want to start with Purdue, the number one team in the country right now. They're 11-1. Kansas is ranked second in the country. This according to the ESPN poll, by the way. Houston 3, Arizona 4, UConn 5. That's a really tough top 5. And then Tennessee at 6, Kentucky 7, Illinois at 8. A lot going on right now with Illinois with the Terrence Shannon situation. FAU at 9 and Marquette at 10. That's a really solid top 10. Have seen a good amount of these teams in the top 10. Also some teams in the top 15. North Carolina, Oklahoma, Memphis, Colorado State, who played in Kansas City, won the Hall of Fame Classic, beating Creighton. And then Duke at 15, playing a little bit better. Saw Duke and Baylor in New York. It was a very good matchup, and Duke needed that win to kind of get back on the right track. They've been struggling. But let's talk about Purdue. I do want to touch on some of the top teams in college basketball. I would say Purdue as a contender, but a lot to prove, as we've seen from Purdue in the NCAA tournament over the last few years. Feels a little bher unfair. Matt Painter's an excellent basketball coach. He's one of the best coaches in the country, but a team that's got a lot to prove in terms of March Madness. They're the number one team. They're right there at the top in the Big Ten. Big Ten's still a good league, probably not to the level of the Big 12 or the Big East or the SEC, but still a very good league. Braden Smith, Zach Edey, the two big guys that are carrying Purdue. Zach Edey, the 7-footer, doesn't play like most 7-footers. He's been dominant. He's actually more improved, I think, than he was a year ago. But there are some flashes to Purdue that make you excited about what they could possibly be in the NCAA tournament. But there's also those holdups, those late game situations where they've had some struggles. They've had some flashes that have crept back in from last season in terms of being turnover prone to finish games. We saw that against Northwestern. Purdue has given away some leads in games. That's a little bit of a concern. But you look at this team. They got the win against Arizona, so that was a good top win for them, good non-conference win. Their next 10 days, they got Eastern Kentucky on Friday, then they start league play at Maryland, and then they host Illinois. That was a really big game in Big Ten play with Purdue facing Illinois, but now Illinois is without Terrence Shannon, who's been suspended. A lot going on there. That is a huge mark in college basketball right now, what's going to happen with Terrence Shannon with his off-floor situation. And we'll see what transpires with that. But Purdue, now that game looks a little different against Illinois. Illinois is still a very good basketball team. but some tests ahead for Purdue. Big Ten is a slug to get through. It's a very physical league. Could Purdue be a contender? Yes. Are they probably in my Final Four right now? I still think they have a lot to prove just because of their style of play, and can that win in March, and can that get you to a Final Four in a national championship game? Not saying it can't, but Purdue is definitely the team to circle of, can they prove it this year? Can they get over the hump? Can they make a run in March for Coach Painter, who I think is a great coach? I think that's the only thing that's really a part of the conversation. He knows it. That team knows it. And hopefully they can get over the hump this year. Some surprises I think are out there that are in the back of my mind, teams that could maybe make a run. I'll start with Oklahoma. I think they're a team that's interesting. They just lost to North Carolina. It's a good matchup for them in terms of North Carolina being a top 15 team. But Oklahoma's really interesting because they're a team that is kind of under the radar. They're kind of flying under the radar, but a team right now, the Sooners ranked 248th, though, in turnover percentage. That's the biggest thing that's holding me up with Oklahoma, is turning the ball over. They have not taken care of the ball, especially against high major competition. They did get a good win at home against Providence. They've taken care of their non-conference slate. Really good guard play, and a team that has size, but they're more a strength, physical at the power forward center position. Uday, their power forward, has a lot of good skill around the rim, but a team that Milo Suzan carries that team in terms of point guard play. Really good creator. Can handle the ball, can get to spots on the floor and get others involved. Javion McCollum is their best scorer. He's a two-guard, can play the point as well. And they have some really good role players that don't know their role, that understand how to incorporate in their offense and be effective. Definitely playing off Milo Suzan, who I think is their primary ball handler, a great passer, and a guy that a lot is on his shoulders in terms of taking care of the ball. They need others to do the same. Javion McCollum is a really good scorer. In the mid-range, he can step out and shoot the three. He can get downhill, get to the rim. Really good scoring guard. So a team that is kind of flying under the radar. I would say the Memphis Tigers are another team flying under the radar, and so much made of Naquan Tomlin, who is a Kansas State transfer. He is now eligible. Graduated from Kansas State. Really interesting situation there that is off the floor situation with his suspension at Kansas State. Definitely something that was lingering for a while and had been lingering for a few months. We were wondering if we were going to see Naquan Tomlin on the floor, if at all, at Kansas State. We saw how that played out. He ends up transferring after his dismissal, and now he's at Memphis. And Memphis is a 10-2 team that is a really good team, and adding Naquan Tomlin, who is a double-digit scorer and adds size to what Memphis already has, and that is athleticism, that's length. They have really good point guard play. They're a veteran team. Javion Quinterly is a guy that is a experienced guard, came from Alabama, and has really scored the ball really well for Memphis, but David Jones is their guy. He is a 25-point-per-game scorer over the past 6 games. He's playing at an All-American level. Really, really talented scorer, and a guy that plays the wing. He's more of a 2-3. Can do a lot of things with the basketball and can shoot it. Adding Naquan Tomlin brings so much modern-day presence to Penny Hardaway's program in terms of being able to play 5 out, having a guy that can play above the rim, lob threat, rim protector. I mean, any coach in the country would take on Naquan Tomlin in a heartbeat in terms of what he can bring to the floor, how he can impact the rim on both ends of the floor. Good athlete, really good shooter, too. He can have streaky moments, but he can shoot the basketball. Really interesting team, the Memphis Tigers. So watch out for them, 10-2. They are playing good basketball. This is the best team Penny's had at Memphis in terms of the guys that he's brought in from the transfer portal. And just mentioned those, but David Jones is playing at a really, really high level. And I think the defense, the rim protection, and the rebounding definitely takes a jump when you add Naquan Tomlin. And you really need that in March. You need size, you need length. Rim protection in any level of basketball, whether it be the pro level or the college level. You really want to have that if you can. There are ways to get away with it, but if you can have rim protection, rebounding, and then a guy that can step out and handle a little bit and make shots, Naquan Tomlin's going to be great for that Memphis Tiger team. So definitely a team to watch for in terms of maybe a possible surprise team in there. They're a dangerous, looming team. I think when you look at BYU, Colorado State, again, two programs that are, again, flying under the radar. Now both those teams are in the top 20. Colorado State is led by Isaiah Stevens, who's a very good point guard, experienced, older player, very good creator, playmaker. He can score it as well. Just really encompassing three-level player that is really a big key to Colorado State. They're a good team. Saw them beat Creighton in Kansas City on Thanksgiving Day, and they were excellent. Really good athletic team, too, on the wing. They got some size, but really the point guard of Isaiah Stevens, he's the guy to watch. He is a really, really good player, proven, can guard, improved defender. I think that was a big area of his game coming back to school, was showing he could defend, showing he could make shots, and definitely got to watch for BYU, a team that's kind of come out of nowhere in the Big 12. I'm curious to see what BYU does in league play. They've had a good non-conference slate, a team to kind of circle as a possible surprise. They're playing good basketball, very good team-oriented group. They play hard. They're a tough team. They do things in terms of within their offense, a very good passing team, a team that can get up and down and play with pace, but also a team in the half court that really executes. They don't make mistakes, and defensively do a pretty good job, much improved defensive team from a year ago. So a team to definitely watch in BYU. But two teams I want to hit on in terms of being dangerous. I just touched on Memphis. Marquette and Houston are probably the two other teams I circle. Now the thing with Houston, Terrence Arsenault, really good combo wing, done for the season, got injured a few weeks back, so he's done for the year. That's a big loss for Houston. They're undefeated. They're a team that their non-conference slate you would look at and think, well, have they played anybody that's to be more desired in terms of competition? They definitely have had some good wins, though, and a team that's starting Juwan Roberts. I think he's been dealing with some issues. He's a big part of their team in terms of health. They really need him. Terrence Arsenault lost his season to an Achilles injury, but a guy that is a healthy, when healthy, has been really good for their team. I think Damian Dunn returning from Temple, he's scoring 15-plus points per game over his last 3 games. He's playing a little bit better. So a team to look for when you look at starting league play, Big 12 play. They got one more non-conference game against Penn, and then they'll play West Virginia to start league play on Saturday. So Houston, well-coached team. We know all about the job that Coach Sampson has done there. But a team to really watch for in terms of what they could maybe bring to the Big 12, some good non-conference games in terms of wins, in terms of style of play, how they played, really athletic, shooting the ball. This is a team that lost Marcus Sasser from a year ago, who was their best player, best scorer, and a guy that was a big-time player in terms of being at the forward position that they lost to the draft. So they're missing some players in terms of what they had last year, but playing well, undefeated. Let's see how they look in Big 12 play. Arizona would be another team that I think is dangerous. They're 4th in the country right now. They're 9-2. Really a good team. Tommy Lloyd's put together a really good team in the offseason. Caleb Love, I think, is probably the best transfer right now in terms of how he's impacted the game from his scoring, more consistent, more efficient, really carrying the Wildcats right now, 9-2 record. They have a pretty good slate coming up. They play at Cal on Friday, at Stanford on Sunday, and then a good matchup against Colorado on Thursday. So they're right into league play. They look good, though. They've had some good wins. They're a team that's, I think, adding more toughness, more versatility. Their perimeter defense has gotten so much better. I think it's a big part of what makes them who they are, is the defensive side of the ball has been really good. They contained Alabama's guards when they played them earlier in the year. Really guarded the perimeter really well. Alabama is a really good three-point shooting team. So Arizona's been just impressive with how they've won games in terms of the improvement in certain areas that I know Tommy Lloyd really wanted to focus in on. They're a team that, it's definitely someone to watch for, especially out of the Pac-12, that could really make some noise, especially come March. UConn is the team to kind of circle here as well, the defending national champions. I want to touch on them for a minute. 11-2 record. Their 2 losses against good teams, one of those being Kansas and Allen Fieldhouse. Health is a big thing. Right now, Donovan Clingan is dealing with some issues. He's been banged up throughout the year. He's a guy that they need to have healthy. Stephen Castle is a really talented freshman. He's back from injuries, trying to get a little bit of a feel and an understanding of his role. Missing a lot of the non-conference slate with injury. Very talented kid, guy that's probably going to be playing at the next level. Can he take a jump forward and help this team throughout the season? We know about Alex Caravan, big-time shooter. He's a guy that they need to get going. Dan Hurley touched on that. He's a big-time shooter. They're doing a lot with Samson Johnson and Yusef Senghor. They're two bigs with clinging out. Those two guys are getting a lot of run. Can they withstand for UConn in the Big East? Big East is a really good league. We just saw Providence beat Marquette to start Big East play. It was an upset, but Providence looks really good under head coach Kim English in his first year. It's a really good team. The league in general in the Big East is going to be competitive. It's a tough league. A lot of good teams there at the top, and just the league in general, every night's going to be tough in the Big East. It's a really good league. They'll probably get a lot of teams in the tournament, to be honest with you, of just where that league's going. UConn starts with DePaul at home. DePaul's not played well, and then UConn goes to Butler, and Butler's been really good team. Tristan Newton is the guy for UConn. He is a point guard that it can play the two. He's a very, very good shot maker. He can shoot the three. He's got extended range. And is just doing more in terms of scoring at the rim, scoring from the mid-range. His passing has been very good. So definitely a team to watch. And then the last team I did want to touch on here to start the podcast is Kentucky. Very, very athletic, and getting healthy is the name of the game right now in league play. DJ Wagner, Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, those three guys have really been good for John Calipari in Kentucky. You look at the way DJ Wagner's played of late. He's really taken a step forward. I think Reed Shepherd's probably been the most impressive freshman of the group, and then Rob Dillingham has just some shifty, quick speed with the ball. Really, really versatile. Antonio Reeves, a big-time shooter, one of their returners, older player. So there's a lot of pieces there. They're getting Aaron Bradshaw, a freshman that has been banged up, true 7-footer, rim protector, a true 5. They're waiting to see, what he could really bring this team because they've missed out on him, and they're 9-2, and they've been pretty banged up. There's a couple other guys that are dealing with eligibility that could be a part of this. Don't want to talk about them just yet because there's still so much to be weeded through in terms of if they're even going to play this year. But getting healthy at the right time is the Kentucky Wildcats, and they're adding in a really talented freshman in Aaron Bradshaw. They're young. We know what youth can mean sometimes in March, but this Kentucky team is dangerous. They got a lot of scoring. They got a lot of firepower. They can play fast. They're athletic. They're long. They got some returners and older players that have been around that are really helping carry them. So it's a perfect balance for John Calipari's team, and they're deep. They can go 9-10 guys if they want to, and depth is always important when you hit March, and Kentucky's going to be right there in that conversation. They're ranked 7th in the country. I wouldn't call them a surprise because I think coming into it, we knew that they were going to be talented, but Kentucky's had talented teams in the past, and what will this team look like is kind of the question going into it. And I've been impressed with just how they've been able to handle a lot of the expectations that come with playing at Kentucky. SEC is going to be a good league. Tennessee's in this league. That's really good. I know Alabama's been kind of up and down, but they're always dangerous. They're always a well-coached program, a really good team to watch for. And let's see how it shakes out with Kentucky in league play. Like with all these schools, league play can be a challenge, and we'll see what that brings for Kentucky. Some disappointments, some teams that might not be operating on full cylinders, and that would be Michigan State for one. Michigan State was a top 5 preseason ranked team. They've really gone through it in terms of just struggling on offense and had a lot of returners, had 2 really talented freshmen coming in, Cohen Carr for one of the best athletes in the Big Ten, one of the best athletes in college basketball as a freshman. A lot of expectations on Michigan State coming into the year, and they got off to a really, really slow start, losing some non-conference games and conference games that they really shouldn't be losing. Trying to find themselves. I think it's a big challenge for Tom Izzo and his staff of trying to get this team back on the right track. It's not early anymore as we're getting into league play, and the Big Ten is going to be a force for Michigan State in terms of scoring the ball because it's just such a tough physical league. But can Michigan State, get through this funk they're in? I guess is how I would say it. Let's see where they're at. Come February, if they can start getting on a run. They had a good win against Baylor in Detroit. That was sort of the kickstart, hopefully, to what they're wanting in terms of more consistent play from their older guards. Malik Hall, who's a returning forward, he's not really done, I think, what that staff wanted coming into the year. Trying to get a little bit more out of him in terms of his production, rebounding the ball, scoring the ball. So Michigan State, a little bit of a disappointment. Arkansas and Creighton are teams that I thought about putting in this category, but they've had some good wins too. Creighton's a legit contender in terms of, if they're playing at their best, if they're making shots, they're as dangerous as anybody. And especially in the Big East, as I just touched on, it's a tough league. Creighton's right there at the top of it. Creighton's had some tough losses, had a tough overtime loss to Villanova. Baylor Shireman, Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, those three guys, Stephen Ashworth, the transfer from Utah State. They have a really good core nucleus. Mason Miller is a very athletic forward that's starting for them now. We'll see where Creighton is come league play, or excuse me, come end of league play into the NCAA tournament. They had a great run last year in the tournament. I don't see how they fall off if they're healthy and they're playing their best basketball. Their modern day offense, they value the 3-point shot. They value spacing. They have a big in Ryan Kalkbrenner that can be a force. They have versatile shooting in Baylor Shireman, who's a great rebounding wing. Trey Alexander has the ball in his hands more. He's playing the 1 and the 2. He's more of a playmaker this year. He's had some ups and downs, but still a very talented player, really good defender, Trey Alexander. So Creighton's a good team. And then Eric Musselman's Arkansas Razorbacks. They've had a couple tough losses, but again, a team that's athletic. They have some talent. They're long. Let's see how they fare in the SEC. There's still more to be desired with Arkansas. I think they're a team that was kind of an unknown coming in. They were, preseason ranked top 20. They've had some tough losses. Record probably doesn't reflect the roster that they have. But in the SEC, it'll be a tough league, and there's still more to come from Eric Musselman's group. So kind of a question mark right now with those two programs. Let's dive into the local schools real quick, because I want to hit on Kansas, because Kansas obviously is a contender up there with Kentucky and Connecticut and Arizona and some of these teams we've hit on. Kevin McCullar's playing at an All-American level. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Hunter Dickinson probably is in the same conversation. Both these guys could probably be candidates for Player of the Year, I would think. But Kevin McCullar is playing as good as you can play, and very much following the lead that Jalen Wilson left, Ochai Agbaji left, where you're a returner, older player, you've had success, and now it's your team, and that's been Kevin McCullar. Hunter Dickinson is a transfer. We knew what we were going to see with Hunter Dickinson in terms of he was going to be a rebounding machine. We knew how good he was around the rim. He was a great college big at Michigan. Same thing goes at Kansas. Doing a little bit more in terms of hopefully shooting the ball. Shooting the 3 I think is important for Kansas, just because they don't have that knockdown 3-point shooter like Grady Dick or like Ochai Agbaji or Christian Brown was a good serviceable shot maker when you needed him to be a shot maker. They need guys to step up and make threes. Hunter can make threes. Kevin McCullar shot the ball much better from 3. Johnny Furphy off the bench. They're looking for more from Marco Jackson, who's had some good games, played well against Indiana. You look at DeJuan and KJ; those are kind of the staples of your glue guys, your guys that you're kind of your unsung heroes that have really been good in Kansas's wins. The UConn win definitely jumps out. That was a really good win at home where KJ Adams was excellent. The Indiana game, Hunter Dickinson takes over late. Struggled for much of that game and then ends up closing the game out and winning the game for Kansas. So a team that, look, they've got good wins, right? They beat Kentucky, they beat Tennessee, they beat UConn, they went to Indiana and won and were down 10 in the second half. Their only losses to Marquette, and Marquette's a top 10 team and a very good team, very athletic team. I like this Kansas team. The question mark around them will be 3-point shooting and depth. I think those are the two areas. We've talked about depth before with this Kansas team last year, and I think it did, come back to bite them in March. Can Nick Timberlake, can Johnny Furphy, can Brown come off the bench and give this team a lift and help this team? There's a lot to think about with this Kansas team moving forward into the league play. They should be the favorite in the Big 12. I think Kevin McCullar has a chance to be Big 12 Player of the Year for sure. It's a tough league. Big 12 is going to be no joke. We're in Big 12 country here in Kansas City. And the teams that are coming into the league are going to make this league a lot of fun. Baylor will be there. Texas will be there. Those are really good teams in the league. But then we just touched on Houston. We just touched on Oklahoma. Those teams are very good teams. BYU, definitely a sleeper team that I think could cause some problems maybe for some teams, pull some upsets here and there. That to me is the most appealing thing about Kansas is they've already been battle tested in non-conference play and have withstood and come out on the other end with just one loss and had some good games on their schedule. and come through and in typical Bill Self fashion have shown their toughness, have shown their ability to close, have showed their ability to win close games in crunch time. The UConn game really jumps out when they were down, came back, and won a game. So a team that will be right there contending in March. But can they get over the hump? Can they get to the second weekend? Can they get to a Final Four? I think it's going to come down to, can the bench give them a lift? And then can Kevin McCullough, Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan, KJ, and Almarco, can they be great through league play and through March? Health is going to be important, keeping these guys healthy. But a lot of these guys are playing a lot of minutes. So something to watch for as Kansas goes into league play. But a very good team. And to me, you got a great point guard in DeJuan Harris. You got a great wing, All-American wing in Kevin McCullough. And you got an All-American big. You'll take that. Those three pieces are so huge in putting a basketball team together. Yes, depth is very important in March. Old wins in March, as they say. They got older, experienced players. Almarco, although a freshman, although he's had some ups and downs, a very athletic defensive guard that really does his job. And that's why he plays. That's why he starts. That's why he is an impact, because he can guard and he's switchable. So a lot to like about this Kansas team. Let's shift gears and talk about Kansas State. So much about Naquan Tomlin leaving. I think that is definitely the hot topic for Kansas State fans with this basketball program. They're 9-3 right now, and they've had a couple bad losses, I would say. The Nebraska one will probably jump out to K-State fans. They struggled in that game. They were 4 of 30 from 3. They were out rebounded by 20. They shot 26% from the field. So probably the worst loss that they've had is the Nebraska game. It is a Tyler Perry, Arthur Kaluma team now. I think Cam Carter, David Nagesson are your third and fourth options, and David Nagesson and Cam Carter, those roles elevate, and really everybody's role elevates when you lose Naquan Tomlin. I think that was sort of the unknown of this Kansas State team, is you were sort of waiting for Naquan Tomlin to come back to see what Kansas State could be as they move forward with Naquan Tomlin as a 5, as a guy that had size, that could impact the game from 3, that could block shots, that could dunk balls, and now you're losing that, especially the pick and roll game. I think that's something I was really curious to see how that would work with Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry probably hasn't shot it as well as you would hoped. Tyler Perry's a big-time scorer. He's an undersized guard, but he can really score it. He can really shoot it, and he's had some inconsistencies, but still one of the best players on this Kansas State team. There is some talk now with Data Ames, their freshman point guard. How can he maybe implement himself at the point guard position and move maybe Tyler off the ball a little bit. Arthur Kaluma has had some good moments. I think you're looking for more consistency out of Arthur Kaluma. That would be the biggest thing that jumps out. Arthur is a forward that mostly plays on the perimeter, straight line driver. Got to take care of the basketball is the biggest thing. Not turn the ball over, make threes, and really kind of take pressure off of Tyler Perry. Cam Carter, to me, the shot making and the efficiency around the rim can be up and down, but he's got to stay aggressive. He's averaging 16 points a game, and he really needs to play at a high level and stay aggressive at all times. I think Cam's more of a defensive-minded guard. He thinks about that end probably more than he does the offensive end. And on the offensive end, he's much more of a slasher. Like when he's at his best, he's downhill, he's attacking, he's playing off the ball, and showing more as a cutter. Because he's a really good cutter, really good athlete. If a defender turns his head or if he can get behind guys, he's a very good cutter and can get himself involved around the rim. I just touched on Dade Ames, the freshman. They're also playing Caleb Rich, who is a freshman. I'm really curious about this kid. He's a 6'7" freshman from East St. Louis. He's getting some good rotation minutes. I just touched on guys' roles elevating. It's going to be an opportunity for young players to really implement themselves into this offense and into this team. You look at where right now Will McNair is playing 21 minutes, David Nagesson 28, Day-Day's 24 minutes. Caleb Rich is probably around 14 minutes a game. What does that look like in terms of, is that going to be elevated in league play? Can he continue to play at a consistent level? Really good size, really good versatility defensively, and has given them some good minutes. So I think with Kansas State, a team to keep an eye on. Big 12 is going to be tough, but can they find that next gear now that the Naquan Tomlin situation We'll see if some other guys implement themselves in terms of what minutes might change. There is some possibility of, can guys that haven't been playing a lot, can they step into those roles and help Kansas State, get to that next level? Because Naquan Tomlin's not going to be there, and now roles change. Arthur Kaluma is definitely going to be your 4. Probably play some 3. You could possibly play some small ball lineups. So that Kansas State staff is a very good staff. They'll figure this out. They found ways to win tough games. Saw them beat Villanova in overtime at home. It was a great game. They've had some overtime wins. They're still undefeated at home. Undefeated in overtime games is Kansas State, which I think is a real testament to that coaching staff and to those players that they've weathered the storm. They're 9-3 with a lot that's been sort of lingering over this team over the last few months. So it's a team that should be taken in serious conversation right now in terms of being 9-3 and can they get over that hump. Creighton's 9-3. So, you look at teams right now that are right there in the mix. Can Kansas State be an NCAA tournament team? Absolutely they can. But a lot to be desired here as we get into league play. And we'll see how that fares for Kansas State. Let's talk Mizzou. A team that, again, NCAA tournament berth last year. We've talked about them over the last few months of what they've lost. They lost 2 NBA players. They lost those group of seniors that moved on. Right now, Dennis Gates' team struggling. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're 7-5 on the season. There's still issues with rebounding. There's still issues with the free throw line in terms of making free throws and just getting to the free throw line. I think it's been a little bit of a struggle for them. But most importantly, I think the biggest concern, especially over the last 3 games, is their defense. The last 2 games, they've given up over 90 to Seton Hall in Illinois. They've been pretty bad defensively. Sean East is their best player, big-time scorer, probably one of the more improved guards in the SEC. He's been excellent. Been really fun to watch his evolution just at Mizzou over the last couple of years. He's in a totally different role. Played really well against Kansas. Seton Hall, actually, he had a quiet, good game. I thought it was probably one of the worst games he had of the year, and he ended up having a great stat line and had some big moments in the second half, and has really just been the most consistent, reliable piece to Dennis Gates' team this year. I think that's something that this staff is really looking at for Mizzou is really what rotations do they have? What does it look like come SEC play with some of these guys like Trent Pierce, like Jordan Butler, like Anthony Robinson? Where do those 3 freshmen fit in? Because I think it's important for those 3 freshmen to play. They have shown flashes, all 3 of them. Anthony Robinson's probably gotten more time than all 3 of them. He's been great. He knows his role. He defends. He's long. He's athletic. He's smart. He's going to be a really good point guard. He's kind of looking after, Sean East, kind of in his shadow a little bit. Nick Honor as well. Those are 2 older guys that are kind of showing him the way. Jordan Butler's a true 7-footer. He's made mistakes. He's a freshman. He's going to do that. He's raw in some areas, but I like what his potential is. I like what the ceiling is. He shows he can shoot it. He can step out. I think that benefits Dennis Gates' system really well. He can rim protect. There's definitely some processing the game's fast for him, trying to slow that down as best as possible. But I really like his just mobility. He is definitely more, moves better defensively. He's a little bit more athletic in terms of being able to move than Connor Vanover is. He can protect the rim more, and he will have mistakes. There's no question. And he's got to rebound the ball. It's the big message probably Dennis Gates is saying to him. If you want to play, you got to rebound, especially if you're a 7-footer. Because it's just such an issue with this. They have to rebound the ball, and they're still struggling in that area. Trent Pierce got his first start against Illinois. He played a few minutes in the Seton Hall game late and had 8 points in what felt like 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, he came in and gave a lift. He's got great size. He can really shoot it. I really like Trent Pierce, and I think just more confidence is the big key, and just dialing up the motor a little bit, playing a little bit more urgent on both ends of the floor, and obviously the defensive side of the ball is so important. I think that's what Coach Gates is probably not just struggling with, but trying to figure out is who's going to guard and who can I trust on both ends of the floor. It seems like those rotations are a little bit all over the place right now of trying to, press the right buttons, and it's just been up and down from a consistency standpoint. The biggest struggle, too, for Mizzou offensively is they're trying to find Noah Carter in terms of him playing a little bit better. He's struggled. There's no question about it. And Noah's a huge part of this team going into the year of just hopefully taking that next jump and being a reliable stretch big. Mizzou's going to be undersized with him on the floor, but Noah's skill set, he can shoot it. He can put the ball on the floor. He can rebound. He can score in the block on mismatches. And he's really struggled probably over the last 3 or 4 games, really struggling with consistency. Also struggling, I think, with his confidence a little bit. So Noah Carter is someone that probably, when you look at this Mizzou team, 7-5, in those losses, Noah's not played probably up to the standard that he's capable of playing at. And he's an older player. He's an experienced player. Mizzou fans know what Noah Carter can bring them. We saw what Noah Carter can do. We saw it in the Princeton game in the NCAA tournament a year ago. He was so good in that game when Mizzou lost to end their season. So Noah's fully capable, and I think that's something that this team really needs, is him to take a step forward. Same with Nick Honor. Nick's got to stick threes. He's got to be able to shoot the ball, stretch the defense. I know he likes to put the ball on the floor and get to the paint, but his best weapon is shooting. And if it's a deep three, he's got that range. I'm sure the coaching staff would live with that if it's a good shot. Let's see also what's to come with Caleb Grill. He's been banged up and injured. Not good timing when you're playing against Illinois and Seton Hall and Kansas, and you don't have Caleb Grill, who is a veteran, older, experienced guard that's your best rebounder and a three-point shooter. You're taking shooting and rebounding off the floor, and that's something that this team needs. John Tonji, really up and down in terms of John Tonji. I think he is healthy, but in terms of his minutes, they're a little bit all over the place. There's games where he gets thrown in early in the first half, and I think, too, the defensive side of the ball, the rebounding, big area for John Tonji, who is a very good transfer that was sought out in the transfer portal and the transfer market. And really, I think Mizzou is still trying to figure out what John Tonji can bring this team. And the same thing goes for Connor Vanover, who is a 7'5", big. We all know about Connor's size. But what can he bring this team when he steps on the floor, particularly on defense with his size? Can he rim protect? Can he rebound? Can he move his feet and be an impact around the rim? Jordan Butler, I think, has been a little bit better in that area, but can John Tonji, Connor Vanover, can they find something for this team? And Caleb Grill hopefully getting healthy as they start SEC play. So Mizzou 7-5. They have Central Arkansas on Saturday, and then they get ready for league play. So a lot going on in college basketball. There's some good games ahead. When you look ahead into January as league play starts, it starts quick. The Big 12 is going to be a great league to watch. I think the SEC is going to be a lot of fun as well, with some teams right in the middle of the pack. We didn't even talk about Auburn. Auburn's really talented. They could maybe make some noise in the SEC. Ole Miss is in the top 25 now. Matt Morrell is a returner. Really good scorer. Chris Beard as a first-year head coach at Ole Miss. There's the Ole Miss Rebels, Chris Beard, familiar foe for Big 12 fans. We'll see what takes place there in the SEC. Should be really competitive. And then the Big East, Creighton, right up the road here from Kansas City, just about a 2.5-hour drive. Creighton's a fun team, and Coach McDermott is a great coach. They're a modern-day offense. Big East is going to be super competitive. And that big three core that Baylor, in terms of Baylor, Sharman, Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Creighton's got a real chance to get back to the tournament and make a run if they stay healthy, and if they kind of fight through some of these non-conference losses. They've in those three losses, they really haven't shot the ball that well, and really not played to the standard that they're capable of playing at. So Creighton, very dangerous team. And then you look at Kansas and Kansas State in the Big 12 here locally, something that is something to watch for, just a really competitive league season ahead for both Kansas and Kansas State in the Big 12. So with that being said, I do want to list our House of Hustler, our Hustler of the Month. We haven't done the Hustler of the Month yet this year. I'll call it AKA the Hustler of the non-conference portion. I'm going to give it to Kevin McCullough. I don't know how you can't. Kevin McCullough, I know he's a local player, and we kind of look around the country, but Kevin McCullough, as a returner, has been probably one of the best returners in the country. He has been excellent for Kansas and really playing at a high level, best basketball he's played in college. It's a guy that went through the draft process a year ago, returned to Kansas, older player that has taken his game to another level and kind of fulfilled that Jalen Wilson role. But Kevin McCullough plays relentlessly hard all the time. He's always been that way. He was that way last year for that Kansas team. Relentless motor, competitive, tough, great leader, vocal. He's everything you would want on the floor if you're a coach. Bill Self's got to love this guy and just what he brings his team. Versatile defender, can guard multiple positions, shooting the ball so much better than he has in the past, rebounding the ball at a high level, getting to the free throw line, playing aggressive downhill in transition, and just being aggressive in all to find his offense, I think has been the biggest piece of really what Kevin McCullough has really brought this Kansas team. So our House of Hustle, Hustler of the non-conference slate, we got to give it to Kevin McCullough. Be prepared for what's to come here on the House of Hustle podcast. We might be getting Sophie Cunningham for an interview here in the coming weeks. really excited about. We've been trying to schedule Sophie over the last probably month and a half. It's been an ongoing with her schedule and with my schedule, Steven's schedule. We're trying to get that locked down, but we should have Sophie Cunningham for an interview coming up here in the next few weeks. Mizzou football, good luck to the Mizzou football program as they take on Ohio State tonight. I'm very excited to see this matchup. Kansas State have already won their bowl games, so that's exciting. That you could definitely tell with Kansas and Kansas State, a lot to play for in both those bowl games. So congrats to Kansas and Kansas State for great seasons, and then capping those off with bowl wins. Let's see if Mizzou can do that tonight. So for myself, Jarrett Sutton, no Steven St. John. I know he's listening and watching, but for now, remember, folks, Kansas City is for hustlers.